As you all know, members of the LBC, each year we give the London Ballet Circle Dame Nanette Awards, and they go to the top male and top female graduates from the Royal Ballet School. Past winners have gone on to great success in companies all over the world. At the most recent graduation, Caspar Lench received the award for the male graduate. And I think most of us know he knocked everybody's socks off with his performance at the school show of his solo Tadami. I hope I said that right. It's safe to say he really brought the house down with that. And we've been looking forward to meeting Caspar ever since. And tonight's the night. This evening, Christopher Marney, the newly revived London City Ballet Artistic Director, is going to lead the conversation. We're delighted you both could be with us tonight. It makes our AGM very special, so thank you. If you have a question for Caspar, please type it into the chat box at the bottom of your screen and give your first name, please. And now, enough from me. Gentlemen, take it away, please.
Hi, Caspar. Great to see you.
Hello, lovely to see you as well.
I know everyone is really thrilled to hear from you. And in your short time, your first season at the Royal Ballet, we all realize what a big impact you've made, which is so exciting. So I've got lots and lots of things to ask you, and I'm sure that the attendees tonight will also. But just to start off, we have met before, but I don't know if you will remember, Caspar.
Unfortunately, I'm not sure I
do. That's all right. You when you were in year 11 at White Lodge, a group of you came to Central School of Ballet to do a workshop.
Oh, yes, no, I do remember.
And you really made an impact, and I'll tell you why. It's because it was the first year that we received a really lovely card and letter from you and the participants of that workshop to say thank you. And it's stuck in my memory and many of the staff at Central. So it's wonderful to reconnect with you. Sort of
definitely, yeah.
So as Susan said, the London Ballet Circle members will be very familiar with you because of your award, the Dame Nanette Award for a Most Outstanding Male Graduate at the Royal Ballet School. And then I've been looking at some of the other awards that you've won in your short career so far. And what's been interesting to me is a lot of those awards are for performance. And so I wondered if this was something that ignited a desire in you as a young dancer and is an element of your work that you're very interested in, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think from a very young age, when I first started ballet, I don't think I was maybe made for ballet. I think when you're first starting out, I didn't have the best feet, I didn't have the best turnout, and I was kind of nurtured from before I started the Royal Ballet School, and then once I started that, you know, if you don't have the most natural facility, you have to draw the eye and the attention in another way. And I kind of really like grasped onto that and really tried to hone my performance, artistic abilities, musicality, things that you kind of have control over and it's not what you're born with. So yeah, especially like with my training from maybe 16, so the upper school, I really tried to develop that. And I had a lot of performance opportunities to do that. And so I hope I've got there.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. And I think, like you said, running those two things parallel with working hard on your technique, but also on your performance abilities really makes a difference and has obviously got you where you are today. So you were born in Bristol, is that right? And you started dancing at home before you went to White Lodge?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was born in Bristol and then I started training at the Bristol School of Ballet at about age 4-ish. And I was pretty relaxed about ballet. It wasn't really something I thought I was going to do as a career. I think my mum and my first dance teacher, they kind of saw it first. I had no expectation. I remember age 11 when I was kind of auditioning, my mum suggested to me, oh, maybe you should try for, you know, ballet school. And I thought, boarding school, that sounds like a lot of fun. Not, I want to go do ballet. and yeah, I just kind of went to all the auditions and just tried to enjoy myself. And I when I first got into the school, I didn't actually want to go. I wanted to go and do musical theatre. I felt I'd be more suited to that. I felt more comfortable with that. Because I didn't just start training in ballet. I did tap and modern and jazz. I did all these different styles. But my parents, they said, just go to the Royal Ballet School. If you don't like it after a year, you can leave. And I obviously went and loved it. But yeah, there was kind of no pressure when I first started ballet. And I think I'm very grateful that I had the ability to do a wide range of different styles. And I think that really helped me when joining the school. I didn't have a super strict lens, and given how versatile, the dance world is today and how versatile you need to be in a company, I think that foundation that I had from a young age really helped a lot.
And I think that that's obviously what's made you stand out as well, is that you can turn your hand to many different styles. And I'm sure, having worked on the plethora of choreographers' work this year so far, that you've had to draw upon all of those things that you've been studying at the Royal Ballet School.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's the repertoire that the Royal Ballet Company is incredible, and the repertoire that I got to dance while I was at the Royal Ballet School was also super diverse.
Mm.
And I think you have to be super open to doing things that you're not necessarily very good at the beginning. Um, it's very easy to feel a bit defeated if you don't suit every style immediately. And I think you need to give yourself a bit of leeway to get into it, because I mean, especially now in the company, now I'm not doing a contemporary class 2 or 3 times a week like I was at school, and you do ballet class every day. So you shouldn't, I try my best and I'm not always super successful, but you know, got to try and allow yourself to not be completely on it with every style that you do immediately. And just give it a
Mm.
bit of time and let it get into the body.
Yeah, of course. And the wonderful thing about doing all of this work, obviously, is that you never have to decide exactly what kind of dancer you want to be, because you're
Mm,
constantly learning from someone different in front of you and your peers around
definitely.
you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the wonderful thing about being in a repertoire company, that it will inform you as a dancer.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the performances at the Royal Ballet School, and I know a lot of people would probably want to hear about that. There's a couple of pieces in mind that I wanted to ask
Mm,
you about. But yes, Amanda Jennings, in her review of you at the Royal Ballet School, said that you were blisteringly characterful in the Robert Battle solo. And I can't imagine that solo, for maybe explain to some of the people that may not have seen it who are attending tonight, but it calls on an awful lot of things inside, doesn't it?
mm.
Including, your voice.
Yeah, no, so this solo is very special to me. I'm gonna kind of go back to the beginning and go through the journey just to help explain sort of how it evolved.
Please.
In second year at the Royal Ballet School, there is a competition called the Lynn Seymour Competition for Artistry and Expressive Dance. And all of the second year students take part in this, and you get to choose a solo, rehearse a solo on your own, and then perform it. Um, and so I had actually chosen a different solo by Maurice Béjart, and then I got injured. And I had this panic about 2.5 weeks before the competition, feeling, oh, I'm not going to be able to do it. And at the time in our degree, we were learning about modern dance, and we had just had a lecture about Alvin Ailey. And I just thought, I'm just going to look up Alvin Ailey male solos, typed it into Google, and it was one of the first solos that came up. And I just watched about the first 10 seconds and I thought, I'm going to learn this. The music is spoken, and it's kind of rhythm and beats by Sheila Chandra. And the Robert Battle's choreography is so dynamic and so coordinated with the sound, and it just was such an intriguing piece of choreography, and I felt I'd never seen anything like it, which is what really attracted me to it. Then it's a very challenging piece of choreography to learn because it's so quick, so intricate, so many movements to every single beat, along with having to learn the beats really well so that you can execute the movements at the same time as the music. So I think during the initial process when I was learning it, I was just listening to the music all the time, constantly, because I like felt I had to breathe the solo, I had to really have it in my body, because even if I knew the steps, I needed them to be in, complete coordination with the music. That I think for me was the main attraction to the solo. Um, and as it kind of developed, initially when I first performed it, I did it kind of quite humorously. It was something that I felt there were moments of comedy within it, and I played with that. And then recently in my third year, um, Kanji Sewagama from the Alvanelli company actually came to help coach me on the solo, and he sort of explained some of the layers to it because he'd been performing it for so many years. And it was actually more kind of about a journey and someone who's working through something and dealing with these kind of like emotions that you have potentially when you're going through a difficult period in your life. And this was kind of a new way to look at the solo for me. So I really kind of took that on board and, developed that as I was kind of going through it. And it became quite much more personal because of that. I could draw from life experiences that I've had, and it didn't feel like I was putting on a character for it. It felt I was being much more authentic. And I think that made it much more enjoyable to perform. And also, I think people enjoyed it more once I was performing it like that. And, of course, you mentioned the speaking. Yeah, the speaking, there is kind of a spoken word moment at the end of the piece where I'm right up at the front of the stage, almost shouting at the audience, but I'm just lip syncing. But yeah, I spent a lot of time in front of a mirror, just listening to that 10 seconds of the track, trying to see how I could be expressive with my face, what facial expressions I could do, and also how to make it look like I was saying the words that she's saying in the track. And I think I got away with it a bit because the audience wasn't always super close. But yeah, it was like, again, something I've never done before, and I'm really grateful that I've had so many opportunities to perform it.
And it's an interesting process for us to hear about. So primarily it was self-taught, and you did your research and you listened to the music and you taught yourself the steps. And then you had the influence of someone who really knew the solo. But after all of that, did you still feel that there was room for your own intention and your own interpretation embedded with all of that knowledge that you had by the time you got to the school performances?
No, yeah, definitely. I think for me personally, initially, I I interpreted it in a certain way, and that's kind of how I performed it, in that more kind of comedic light. And then obviously after speaking to someone who performed the solo and works with Robert Battle, I sort of understood that that wasn't his intention for the solo. So I had to kind of go back to the drawing board and think, okay, if he was in the room, he would be saying it needs to be more personal. It needs to feel like you're going through a journey. I want layers, and I don't necessarily want you to be making the audience giggle or chuckle. That's not quite what my intention for the solo is. Um, so I went with that, and I think within that you can find a lot of personal, you know, experiences that you can draw from. I think also, it was my graduation performance, and I knew that that was coming, and there was quite a lot of emotion that I took from it being kind of a closing piece for my time at the school. And it was a really, beautiful thing. 11-year-old me couldn't have dreamed of ever doing a solo at the Opera House. And the fact I got to do that, I could pull from all of those periods when I thought I wasn't going to make it, or I was angry at my feet, all these different things. Um, and so I think it was more personal because I drew from my own experiences. And I think originally when I first did it, it was just I had made a decision. So I think it was that's kind of the difference of someone had told me how I should do it, and I took from what they had said my own experience, versus me going in and watching it and thinking, I'm going to do it like this. So I had choices in a different way.
Right.
Yeah,
It's informed your journey,
yeah,
which is
definitely.
which is so interesting. And your journey is exactly what we want to know about. So obviously coming from 8 years, thinking about this job, this dream job at the end of it, what was that like? What was that day like when you were invited to join the company and told that you would have the Ward Jebsen Young Dancer place?
I mean, it was it was a pretty surreal day. It was the lead up to Christmas, and it was the last day before the Christmas holidays. And I remember,
Lovely Christmas present.
yeah, it was really, really, it definitely made the Christmas break, the New Year so much better. I actually came into school with one of my classmates who joined this season with me. And as we walked into the building, Kevin O'Hare was also at the reception. I remember having this moment thinking, oh, it's going to be today. I had a kind of feeling, but because it was the last day before Christmas, we were able to wear our own stuff, and so I had dressed up as an elf for ballet class as a kind of, and we had my parents were invited to come watch ballet class, and my parents were coming up, and they were on the train, and then Miss Clark, Jessica Clark, I don't, she came and kind of got me from the studio, and I didn't have my tracksuit jumper, and I was in this kind of elf type outfit, and I remember thinking, oh, this is not how I want my first impression, in a meeting to go. But I stole someone's jacket and kind of went in, and just it was super overwhelming. I couldn't even quite process, the fact that Kevin O'Hare was sat across from me offering me this job. It felt like all of my hard work and anxiety and everything that I had been through was paying off, and I was getting this opportunity, which is what I had dreamed for so long. And I mean, the actual meeting is a blur. I kind of went in, he kind of said, and I was like crying a little, and I went out and called my parents, and I'm very fortunate, that they got to watch ballet class and I could see them on that day. I think it made it much more special. And then, we had the Christmas break, and I was able to just enjoy that, and I had no stress of auditions, and we were taking company class with with the Royal Ballet, because I was working on the Nutcracker. And I just remember that period feeling super grateful and excited for the next kind of season, getting to be in that building and on that stage.
Lucky elf.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Really wonderful. So I'm sure joining the company, there has been so much to learn, suddenly being around dancers who aren't your age, that are older than you, that have experience. Having some of your peers around you must have helped. But I just want to ask, when joining, obviously you had danced in productions with the company whilst you were at school. Do you feel that held you in good stead for going in and having your first season, the fact you'd been on the stage already?
Yeah, definitely. It had helped. I think being at the school, especially in the third year when you work closely with the company, I felt much more prepared of how kind of the rehearsals went and how performances ran, and kind of regulating your emotions, that it doesn't have to be necessary. You don't have to get super stressed about it. I think as a student, you feel hyper stressed, and I can see, the students in second and third year who, have been with us so far this season, that like extra anxiety of, pressure, and you're in this building with all these people that you look up to. And I was there, a year ago, and at times I still am. But I think it was such a kind of leg up, I guess you could say. I felt very like I, to a degree, knew how to at least carry myself and act in those kind of company rehearsals and dress rehearsals, generals, and performances.
And was there sort of a moment that you can identify that you felt, okay, I can almost relax into being a professional now? Or has it been a slow transition where sometimes you might still feel like a student and other times you feel, no, I'm an established company member now? Was there one thing that happened, or was it a gradual feeling of turning into a professional dancer with the Royal Ballet?
I mean, I don't know if I even yet feel like I'm fully a professional. I think you know, it's it's such an incredible company building, you know, the history of it. And I think a lot of, I mean, the dancers in my cohort, I think, you know, a few of us have this sort of imposter syndrome of, oh, am I really, you know, good enough to be here? The talent you're surrounded with, you know, everybody from, you know, the orchestra to the set and the stage manager, the dancers, the rehearsal directors, everyone's on their top game. And that can be quite an overwhelming thing when you don't necessarily feel like you are. Um, you know, it was definitely going from being a big fish in a small pond to a
Mm.
little fish in a very big pond. And I think I'm still kind of working through that. Um, so I wouldn't say I feel like a professional yet, but I do feel like I'm not a student anymore. I'm in that maybe transition period of just trying to figure out how I'm gonna stay on top of, you know, my technique, working now without a teacher who's on you all the time, um, which I think has probably been one of the biggest challenges. Because I would say I'm a hard worker, definitely, and you know, I do work hard every day in class, but it's sometimes challenging when you're not getting any feedback to know if you are working correctly, or you know, if there's things that you're not realizing that you're doing that you know at school would have been picked up and ironed out much quicker. So I think that's, you know, something that I'm trying to figure out, and that does make me feel like more like a professional, having that more autonomy. Um, but I would say I'm not super comfortable yet in the fact that I'm uh I don't know if secure is the right word, but the fact that I'm, you
Mm.
know, like solid,
Yeah.
um, that I'm fully a fully fledged professional.
Well, like you said about being comfortable, and I think the comfort that you could find is that everybody has been through the
Mm.
same position that you're in now, and I think that you can maybe you have already, but you can identify people who can perhaps guide and help you through that process because they're also dancers who have been through it, and I think that must be wonderful, and I'm sure you're finding those people as you go through this repertoire and the day-to-day work.
No, yeah, definitely. There's been everyone in the company has been so friendly and kind and generous, like helping us all join. Um, and I definitely think I found a few mentor figures,
Good.
whether that's kind of someone who's only a few years older than me, who I can really go to and who can help guide me, or one of the more senior members, you know, the first soloist, the principals, who I maybe don't speak to too often, but they have those kind of nuggets of wisdom that they can just give you when a conversation arises in a given situation, like in the Pilates studio or in the gym, or even, you know, at the side of a rehearsal. So I definitely feel like I've got that buffer of support and comfort around me. Um, it's also something you have to go through on your own. Um, and you know, I've definitely taken on board everything everyone said, and I know that with time, kind of everyone always says, you know, you go in, you grow into your own skin, you feel comfortable, you feel like you really have a place in the Royal Ballet. So I know I just have to let myself probably get through my first season, and then, you know, I'll start feeling more ready.
Well, I think what's really apparent just in, 25 minutes of talking is the wonderful thing about you is that you are so open to all of these different experiences and advices that people might give you. You're a sponge, you're taking in all of this information. And I think that's the best way a dancer can be, because you'll constantly learn from people. You'll take on those experiences and be able to apply them to yourself. So I think what you're doing is wonderful. Before we move on to the to questions about repertoire, I just wanted you to tell everyone a little bit about what that very first day was like joining the company, what you did when you got there, what your schedule was like, how it felt.
Yeah, no, no. So I mean, I might the first day was actually just the new joiners, and we kind of had like a half day of meetings.
Right.
And then the first week is kind of called plie week. So
Mhm.
you just have ballet class, no rehearsals, and you have various different meetings, just, you know, about things that are coming up in the season and we had like a mental health workshop and just different discussions within the company. So the first week was very relaxed, which I think I was grateful for. I was kind of finding my feet on my flat. We were sorting out, that thing of, oh, I have to pay bills and I have to be on top of all of that now. And it was summer, so it was nice to kind of just have quite a relaxed first week. And then after that, we kind of went straight into Donkey, and the cellist and Anemoy. So I think for my first day that I remember really clearly feeling kind of like this was a real company day. This was a day where I was a proper professional was when we first started learning the cellist and the Donkey rep. I think it was maybe 2 weeks in. And I remember I had ballet class and then the cellist, then Anemoy, then Donkey, then Anemoy. It was like all back to back with all this different stuff. And everyone in the company already knows the rep because most of this rep has been done in the last 5 years. So I remember thinking they're all learning it so quickly. They're all picking this up really quickly. And I'm like trying to play catch up and watching the feet and the arms and the heads and trying to remember what marks they've said to put them on. And I'm covering, 2 different spots for different sections. And I kind of came away from that day feeling exhausted and mentally super drained and thinking, I'm never going to be able to be on top of it. I'm never going to, feel like I am confident in what I'm doing. I'm going to be playing catch up. But it was okay. I just think that was my first kind of proper day of that, and I felt very overwhelmed. But then, the more you go through with it, you get on top of it, you do your homework at night, you go through the video, and you're fine.
And you're banking all of that repertoire for next time. So
Love
in
it,
a
yeah.
couple of years, when that ballet comes along again, you'll know
Mhm.
that. Well, you'll probably have to do another spot, I would imagine. But
Well, yeah, maybe, but you're in better stead.
and multiple spots in things. I know that at the moment you've just finished Manon, haven't you? And you're doing Swan Lake now.
Yeah.
And are you learning various different roles in Swan Lake, for example?
So yeah, for me, when I've been covering parts, I've been usually covering more than one spot. But as far as parts I was actually casted for, I've just had one spot in each of the group dances. I think I'm lucky being a boy. I don't have as much quarter ballet work, in comparison to the girls who are kind of, doing all these especially with Swan Lake. But yeah, in Swan Lake, I'm in Act 1 and Act 3, and in Liam's production, it's the waltz in Act 1, which is brilliant. It's such incredible choreography. It gives the quarter ballet such a chance to dance and move. The music is beautiful, the costumes, the set. And then in Act 3, I'm doing ballroom couples in Shardash. And for Shardash, I am a cover, so I've done all of the different spots there, kind of. But once you know the steps, it's usually easier to kind of figure out the directions. And if your partner will usually drag you around and can help make sure that you're sort of on it if you do need to do something that you weren't expecting.
And when you're doing lots of performances, like in a ballet like Swan Lake or Nutcracker, for example, I'm sure you're suddenly dancing with people that you may have only had a few conversations with, and female dancers that are older than you with more experience, or sometimes your friends from school. How has that? What form has that taken? How has that influenced you?
Yeah, no, I think it's a weird thing when you join the company because everyone who is there was older than you while you were at school. So especially, joining in year 7, I can remember everybody up to, the third years. And I remember looking up to all of them because they were all older than me. And now you're kind of colleagues with them. So it's definitely a weird, or initially it was kind of a challenge to try and feel that I'm now your equal. You're not someone who, even though you are older than me, we're not as kind of separated as you are when you're at school. Um, so I think as far as in rehearsals, I find it quite daunting, especially, dancing with girls who are older than me. I don't want to feel that I'm, not achieving what they're sort of used to. And also because I'm quite small, I think I have some anxiety about the fact that I'm small and I don't want that to hold me back. So I just want to make sure I'm always, I think, maybe overcompensating a little bit and trying to do, the best I can. And I've had some people be like, you're doing a good job. Like, you can just calm down. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll just
Good.
take a deep breath. But I think it's nice because everyone is super lovely and super friendly. And the benefit of them being older than you is they feel more comfortable, and that definitely helps you feel more comfortable as well. They probably know the choreography, so they can sort of uplift you and
Mm.
I don't want to say drag you along with them if you're feeling not up to it, but they can kind of take you under their wing in those rehearsals so that you don't feel as alone.
Course. And it's a huge undertaking. I mean, some, and some other people who are listening tonight will know, but not everyone will. That, it's not only the choreography, you suddenly step on stage into this whole world because the set completely transforms and sometimes confuses you as a dancer, doesn't it? You're wearing something completely different. It's black out front and all around you is a completely different world, which is daunting, incredibly exciting because you're stepping into these productions I'm sure that you watched as a student, but it's quite a feat. It's not something to be taken lightly.
No, definitely.
So I'm interested also in some of these other opportunities that you seem to have grabbed or been asked to do, which have happened in the Clore and the Limbury. I know that the most recent was the duets that you did for the draft works, but also I saw you perform in an evening that Joseph Tunga put together in the autumn as well, and I believe you were in one of the works in the Clore studio there. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about duets that happened a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, no, so that was a project that I've been working on with Denilson, one of the boys in the company. He's a few years older than me, and he approached me back in October, saying that he wanted to create, a piece on me and Martin, one of the boys who's the year above me, just for the draft works. So we started working on it, and he had a lot of ideas percolating and a lot that he was super interested in. And we made a lot of material, a lot of different pieces, and a lot of various styles of movement. He he was super kind of driven by the music that he was using. His Portuguese, like song music, and initially it was one track that we made a piece to, and then we added to it, and then we changed it, and then he decided to add chairs. So when we came to the December draft works, we had two sections of this piece, and it ended up kind of being like a conversation type piece of choreography. He was super interested in the idea of how religion affects people, but it wasn't exclusive to that. It was more people looking for something to find comfort in. Is that a person? Is that religion? Is that, who is that? What is that? And that was kind of the base for what that initial piece that we showcased at Draftworks was. And then we developed that further, adding kind of a third movement for the performance that we did just a few weeks ago for the duets program. And I think the three types of music came together really beautifully. I think the choreography was really beautiful, and I was really grateful to be a part of it because it was a super collaborative process. It was really nice to work quite intimately with, my partner and the choreographer, and feel that I could offer up my opinions and ideas, what felt good, what didn't. And he was super open to it and really eager to listen and make sure that we felt as good in it as we could. So yeah, it was a very cool experience.
It's excellent practice for when you have to work with a choreographer and they ask the dancers to contribute to the process. It sounds like to have these experiences where you can feed in and input into choreographers' work is, I'm sure, is going to help you when other choreographers come in and make larger pieces too.
No, definitely. I think it's nice to feel that you have a voice and that someone values, your opinion, even if they decide not to listen, they still heard you and they still appreciate the fact that you're willing to tell them what you think.
And I think what's wonderful is that you're interested in doing that and you're showing an interest now. And that in the more contemporary work that you're talking about, to have a voice and to find intention behind the movement, when that shifts to the classical work as well, that's extremely exciting. And I think when it really makes an artist is when they're looking at the intention behind all of that steps. And I can see that that is something that seems to excite you.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Oh, good, great. So tell us what's coming up. I know you're doing Swan Lake now, but between now and the end of the season.
Well, so we have Swan Lake that we just opened last week, so that will be going on, and we have the Macmillan celebrated triple bill, which is coming up, I think, on March 20th. So we're pretty busy with that next week.
And are you dancing in which ballets are you dancing in for the triple bill?
Yes, so I'm in Different Drummer, and I'm covering a lot of the places in Requiem.
Wonderful.
And so it's been pretty exciting to work on. I think none of the ballets that they're doing have been staged in quite a long time. So everyone is in the same boat of we're all learning it for the first time. So that's, a nice change. And yeah, I think Macmillan works are always just so incredible. And for me as a young dancer, really inspiring to watch, especially those principal roles, with Manon and the pas de deux that he's created and the characters that he allows those dancers to be is, I mean, they're dream roles. And it's very exciting to see all of that intention and be so close to that process to really witness, his just choreographic genius. And then after that, we have Winter's Tale, Christopher Wheeldon, which I'm very excited for. A super beautiful ballet. I'm not actually sure what I'll be doing in that yet. The casting's not come out, but regardless, I'm looking forward to just seeing it come together, especially with, the set and everything, because it's super visually enticing. And then after that, we have Ashton Triple Bill. So Sarasota Ballet is coming over and they're bringing some works with them. And then the company is doing Midsummer Night's Dream and Rhapsody. So again, two beautiful ballets. Rhapsody is one of my favorite ballets. The music, the choreography, the set, everything. I think it's so beautiful and just an incredible piece by Ashton. And then I think we close the season on a rerun of Swan Lake. We kind of have a break and then we come back to it. So I'm excited to finish the season with that because, it's a very exciting ballet and it feels like, oh, I've made it, like I'm doing Swan Lake. So I think it will be special to finish the season on that.
A lot of exciting work to come up. And you already said dream roles, and that was my next question. And I know that everyone wants to know that. And it can be a hard question to answer, I know, but I think it's always really good to put those things out there. And we, I'd love to know. And I don't know, everyone's different, and some people read reviews and they read blogs and things like this online and others don't. I don't know if you do, but what's interesting is there's a lot of speculation, Caspar, already about future roles that people want you to dance. So if you do a quick Google of yourself, you'll see on some of those ballet websites. And it was really interesting because I was reading, over the last few days in preparation for this. And there's some interesting thoughts and ones that, I think roles that I'm sure you would love and would be wonderful in. Someone mentioned Puck in A Midsummer Night's Dream and Bratfish in Myling.
Yeah.
But what are the roles that you're drawn to?
I have never looked up myself on Google. I actually didn't really think much would come up, so I'm intrigued to find out that there's, people kind of discussing this stuff. But yeah, the first role that springs to mind is Hans Peter in the Nutcracker. I think, that was, and mainly because I did Nutcracker while I was at White Lodge in year 7, 8, and 9. you know, I danced all of the kind of roles that you could do, and doing that role and working with the company at that time, that was the kind of role that I thought, oh, that's such a just brilliant role. You get to dance with Clara, and it just felt like I can remember being 11 and thinking that would be really incredible to do. So now that I'm in the company, that would be, I think, a role that would feel like a full circle.
Mm.
You know, for me, and also, you know, my parents, they came to watch me in Nutcracker and they watched me doing Fritz, and I think to see me, you know, then doing that would be something really special. And I think, I mean, there are lots of roles that I would love to dance, but one that does stand out is Degria from Manon. Um, I saw Manon, I think back in 2019 when the company last performed it, and I remember thinking what he can give is just really beautiful. And the pas de deux that Macmillan created and the music is all just so incredible, and it, you know, moves. I cry most times, you know, I watch that final pas de deux. So that's another role. Those are the kind of the first two that spring to mind. There are lots of, you know, other parts that I've seen the company do. You know, I would love to do Blue Boy from Le Patineurs. I did it for Solo's Evening last year. Jester in the Cinderella.
That was mentioned too.
Oh, it was. Yeah, so you know, Jester and Cinderella, they did that last year, and I feel that would be something I would love to, you know, tackle. Romeo from Romeo and Juliet. And I think probably Prince Siegfried, Swan Lake. I think Swan Lake is a real classical ballet, and I think it's a real testament to you as a dancer, you know, to do that role. So I guess that's a few
I
here
think
and
that's
there.
great. I think that's wonderful, and you know, you have so much support behind you, and everyone is vying for you to do well, and
Oh,
you've made this wonderful start. So it's fascinating to hear more about your thoughts on your journey. So just before we finish, because I know in a few minutes we have to wrap up, and I'll pass back over to Susan. But hearing all of this and hearing what a hardworking, motivated dancer you are, what going forwards into the next season and the one after that, what excites you? What gets you up in the morning and makes you think, yes, I'm going to work today because of this?
I mean, I'm definitely excited to work on, you know, more challenging roles, more featured roles. I think that's, you know, obviously when you first join a company, you have to, you know, work your way up. And I'm extremely motivated to work hard and hopefully get those opportunities. I also am very inspired by my colleagues, and I think I'm super motivated by them to get in the studio and watch and learn and kind of steal the things that, you know, I love, you know, about the various different dances. How can I incorporate the way that they perform? How can I use this thing that they do on myself? I think that's super motivating for me. But I also think I just enjoy performing. I think, you know, that's kind of been how I've been since I was 4, since I first started. It just kind of keeps me going and feeds my soul. So I think that is probably, you know, the crux of why I get up and keep working.
Wonderful. Well, I think that's a lovely note to finish on. It's your motivation is really inspiring. And I always think, you know, for young dancers, you know, 19, 20 years old, you know, to be so focused like this, there's so many young people who are still finding their way at this age, but to be so driven and so motivated, I think it just shows what a role model, you know, you are for young people. So congratulations on everything
Thank
you've
you.
achieved so far. And yes, like I said, we're all behind you.
Thank you.
Susan, shall I hand over to you for some final final words?
I think.
You're off mute, are you?
Hello. Yes, yes. Oh, thank you so much, both of you. Dame Monica and I are sitting here listening, and here she is. And
Loving every minute of it.
and we're just saying what an articulate and exciting young dancer you are, and your smile is infectious. And we're just really proud that you were the winner of the Dame Nanette Award last year. We tend to be a bit sort of possessive of the dancers who receive rewards or bursaries from LBC, and you're definitely up there with the best of them.
Thank you.
As our patron Sir Peter Wright says, you're the total package, and that's terrific. So thank you so much for a wonderful talk. And Chris, thank you. You asked all the best questions, and it was just wonderful getting to know both of you. And Chris, if this artistic director thing doesn't work out, you do have a future as a presenter, whether on TV or Zoom.
Well, that sounds good. Thank you.
Good, good. I hope it won't be necessary. Anyway, so thank you again, Christopher and Caspar. It's been great.